Good day, Santa Clarita. It's Connor with Honor. I hope everybody's doing fantastic. This is going to be your update here for the weekend. We're going to do this Sunday. It is the 1st of September. The numbers from August 2024 have not been compiled, but the biggest changes on the real estate market have to do with contractual ones via a lawsuit that was settled. Part of the agreement was, in the National Association of Realtors, if you're buying a house, was you're going to need to sign something as a buyer broker contract before you look at house number one. And on that contract, there's going to be a few things that you need to be aware of, so make sure you read it. And again, I'm not an attorney. I cannot give you information with regard to digestion or explanation of a contract, but exactly what it says. It's going to talk about a few things. It's going to talk about, and this is what you need to look into, it's going to talk about you and how much you're going to pay your realtor to represent you. Then it's also going to talk about how much your agent is going to get, what they're going to be making from the seller, and that's another aspect. Then also it's going to talk about the properties. So the contract can be really broad. Any listing, anywhere at any time over a particular time period, that is what the agent you're selecting can represent you with, and then whatever commissions, concessions, all of that thing, all of those things, that's applicable to whichever property. Or it can be a one-fer, just a one single property viewing that actually works as well. And again, then you get into the area, and I've heard this talked about recently with regard to how many homes would be worth it for the buyer to show them, and then what would we charge in accordance with that. So let's say a buyer calls an agent and says, I want to see this house. And the agent says, okay, do you have a real estate agent? And the guy says, no. He says, well, because you don't have an agent, I would like to be your agent. You know, I'm Connor McIver. I'm wonderful. I'm fantastic. And I'm the best in the business, yada, yada, yada. So then the person says, oh, great, Connor. Well, you know, I appreciate you saying what you are, and I've read you online, and I've been following you for a long time. And yes, you really are fantastic. And if I was going to select an agent, it would be you. Okay, so I went off the rails on that. So bringing it back, yeah, Connor, I appreciate it, but this is the only house I want to see. And then the agent goes, oh, well, you know, it's going to take me a little while. I got to get this contract sent. I need this information from you. I need your name and email address and cell phone, of course. Well, I don't want to give you any of that information. It's okay. Well, I have to send you a buyer contract to be able to show you this property. This is my fee. He says, well, I'm not willing to pay you that fee. So then the agent says, well, I can try to get it from the seller. He says, well, I don't care who you get it from, and that's your business. I just want to see this house. There's hostility built into that conversation. There is a little struggle. It's difficult to overcome that kind of an attitude, but maybe he has reason. And the agent on the other side of that conversation also has a decision to make. Is it going to be worth it for them? This relationship just began. It's completely adversarial right out of the chute. Is that going to be something of a problem as that relationship develops, or even just showing that single property? How's that going to work? Now, I say single property as if it wouldn't be that realtor's listing. It's not their listing. The realtor that's representing the seller has a contract, and maybe this particular buyer knows enough not to tie up with the same agent, at least in his mind. Don't tie up with the same agent representing the seller. If that's the case, and that's the buyer, the way they approach it, great. If they're just doing it because they think I'm the listing agent of that listing, they would know very short and quick that I was not, because I would tell them that's not my listing. And then if they say, well, I'd rather deal with a listing agent, and I would probably ask why, and they might respond, well, that's the way Dad would have done it. I've understood that you get a better deal going to the listing agent. He knows the seller's bottom line, and which just saying that's kind of dangerous, because pretty soon he's going to know your bottom line too. I don't know. I would rather have somebody on the other side, but let's say that couldn't be I couldn't be convincing in that regard. Whether you believe that or not, I still wouldn't be able to explain to him at least how I would handle it. I would want my own. If I had somebody coming after me in a lawsuit format, I couldn't. But even if I could hire that same attorney that is placed the lawsuit on me via whatever mechanism that would be, X or somebody, when it comes back to me, then I wouldn't, even if I could, I wouldn't want to hire their attorney because they're getting all of this information, more than likely convoluted, and then I go out and hire my attorney, and it's going to be different because my information is probably going to be just as convoluted, but it's going to be mine. So then they battle it out. And of course, you have all that friendly handshaking and stuff. They're not really enemies, but they're putting on a good show. And I understand that. I don't mind a good show. Good shows are fun. That being the case, he comes back and he says, you know what, I really want to deal with the listing agent, and fair enough. This is who they are. I don't have their number. Would you like me to look that up for you as well? He says, yes. Well, of course, whatever. It takes a second. I can look it up, give him the number. Who knows what'll happen? But at that point, it's gone past that being able to be salvaged or being able to be fixed, because it started out hostile from the very beginning. It played all the way through. I tried to answer the questions. I tried to be as open and honest as I could be. And then at the very end, it was still, I want to talk to that agent. So, okay, so if you want to talk to the listing agent, deal with them directly, negotiate directly with them, great. Then my offering is, let me get you that information. I'm not their secretary. I don't work with them. They're not in my business. Even if they were in my office, I still wouldn't do their work for them, that kind of a thing. But that's the way commission-based sales are, and that's the way it breaks down in that world. You have choices, but this is something that's new on the horizon, having come up, and now we're in September. The other thing that I will talk about is I've seen a couple instances of those buyer-broker agreements stemming from the local brokerages themselves. Basically, their custom form that has the same types of information that apparently are necessary to make that legit. Attorneys do that. They put all that together and then publicize it. I don't know how the approval process works on the other end of it, but again, should you sign that? Another question, another great question to ask. My suggestion is you read it. If you have any more questions, go have an attorney give you that information so you can make your best decisions. That's where we are currently in the market. We've breached 500 units for sale, as I've been talking about. That happened here about a week and a half ago. So now we're sitting about 509, 510 listings. That's still very much a seller's market. There's still high competition. If a house goes on the market, it doesn't last very long. In fact, the residences only last usually between 10 and 15 days, depending on the city in Santa Clarita Valley that the house is listed within. If you're in Los Angeles, you're going to have even a shorter time frame. And if you're in kind of a keyhole area, a Venice area, somewhere closer to the beach, it's going to be multiple offers very quickly, and it's going to depend on whether it's going to be local or not. My suggestion in those areas, you're going to have those local agents that are dug in very, very well. Don't make your decision based on that. I would make my decision, if I had a house anywhere, on the agent's ability to represent me. If you're hiring, horrible comparison, a mercenary. You're hiring a mercenary to do a job for you. Horrible comparison. But the mercenary, you meet him, you talk to him, you like him, you start to trust him. If you take the mercenary to Bolivia, or you take the mercenary to Canada, or you take the mercenary anywhere, it's kind of the same. We're dealing with the same things. We're dealing with people and whatever the objective is. real estate, if licensing applies and that individual does their research, because a Merc wouldn't go in blind to a particular area without doing a little bit of research. What's law enforcement look like? What's the military look like? What's customs look like? How do you get, all of these little things, right? You got to do the research. As a real estate agent, even the local agent, for them to just assume that they know it all without having to update themselves and look and see how the local market's changing, what the different dynamics are, the best way to serve their clients from beginning to end. All of those little items are sometimes lacking because they become so comfortable in those areas. They're like, well, business is just roll it in and I get to drive my Maserati all around. Well, that's great. Good for you. But sometimes when they're not paying attention, somebody else comes in and is able to do a better job because they have their clients' complete trust. And they understood at the very beginning that business will come, but trust is the most important factor in hiring your agent. Be well, everybody. Thank you so much for watching today's update. I blathered on. We will talk to you very soon. I'm Connor with Honor. Over and out.